How you doing, guys? ZDEyE here. I wanted to talk about the next installment of the Grand Theft Auto. Well, obviously will be most likely named Grand Theft Auto 6 and may actually release sooner than you would actually think. Now, recently the CEO of the Take-Two Interactive, the parent company of the Rockstar Games, revealed that he expects smaller gaps between the publishers' big releases going forward. So, according to the Take-Two CEO, Strauss Zelnick, games like Grand Theft Auto Online and Red Dead Online mean it can engage its customers as an ongoing basis and extend the life of its games. This has led to less pressure on getting new installments to the market, which is why there's been some of the big gaps between its big releases this generation. However, to reduce this gap, as he mentions, Take-Two plans to dump more resources into the development teams and expand their size. Now, I wanted to talk about the whole premise of this. Zelnick himself, he's a big deal. Like, he is, like, whatever he pretty much says, everything is gonna go. Basically, it's regarding Grand Theft Auto 6. I want to sprinkle my own thoughts and opinion as well. In fact, he mentions that we may actually see Grand Theft Auto 6 sooner than we were all expecting. My initial thoughts, as I was expecting, I thought that Grand Theft Auto 6 would be coming out presumably maybe the latest it would be 2023. That's the latest. But if he's talking about for them to reduce the time of development, then obviously I might as well reduce it by another year or two even, in fact. So 2021, just to say, on the safe side, of course. Now, as we already know from the Rockstar, especially when the way they reveal their games, the very first reveal trailer, usually after 2 years, that's when they release the game. They've done it so with the Grand Theft Auto 5, they've done it so with the Red Dead Redemption 2. You know, first reveal trailer comes out, and then a couple of years, 2 years to be more precise, the game comes out. And so, right now, as you already understand, basically Rockstar, they're not very confident of, you know, revealing and showing off the date and say like, oh, this is the day when it's coming out, too early, because, you know, they already had a lot of backlash on that because they had to delay, well, Grand Theft Auto 5 is an instance so many times. I think it was like 2 or 3 delays it went through. It's insane. But still, at the end of the day, it did come out and it was a good game, still is a great damn game, and it's fantastic about that anyway. But here's an issue. Zelnick has mentioned this regarding that due to the development time, and he is just not very happy the way that they have been going about, especially with the Red Dead Redemption 2. 8 years gap from Red Dead 1 to Red Dead 2. So that's just too big, he mentioned himself, and he wants to change that. He wants to make sure that there will be less gap than the 8 years. It's too far and too much. I understand completely as well what he's talking about, but as well, you know, we all would agree with this, right? Delay the game if it's necessary just to make sure it will be the best possible version it can be. But as you might already understand, if Rockstar delays their game, it's not about like couple of weeks, couple of months. When they delay their games, it can be even up to years. So are you really willing to wait years and years just to make sure that the game comes out will be fantastic? And now, especially since Zelnick himself mentioned that they're changing a little bit of their format of the development and the gap. He specifically said that they will be reducing with the content-wise on day one, so they can actually have more stuff implemented after when the game launches, as a live as a service-based type of game. That's not good news. I don't like to hear this at all. Personally, for me, I would rather wait 8 years until from Grand Theft Auto 5 to Grand Theft Auto 6 as an example. That would be fine, just fine for me. But if that's the case, let's say maybe you know, they want to, you know, make the development time shorter and release their games a little bit more frequently than 8 years of gap. And because of that, they have to sacrifice the development. Obviously, they're gonna have to reduce some of the content-wise. Now, we don't know exactly how much of the content reduction would that be necessary for them to do. Like, personally for me, what I love about Grand Theft Auto 5, what I love about Red Dead Redemption 2, the single-player aspects, is the exploration. You always go out there, find new things you never would have even thought. A couple months later, even years later, you still find out new things that you never even thought that you would be able to locate. And so this makes this game so appealing for so many years, even the single player. The online is more of a live as a service game, it's obvious. Day one it comes out, it's nothing special, you play the hell out of it, then you lose your, interest with the game. Maybe you'll come back after, I don't know, a couple months later or a couple of years later. Grand Theft Auto Online, as of this moment, is extremely popular, way too popular. In fact, Take-Two Interactive, they even mentioned it themselves, that they were shocked to see how much growth and how much dedication into that game still goes. It's more than confident to say that Grand Theft Auto Online is far more popular, and probably will ever be, than Red Dead Online. And that's the fact. It's been already confirmed because, like, since Grand Theft Auto Online is still taking those top 10 sales of all time, more or less, well, all the time at this point, since 5 years, Red Dead Redemption 2, I don't think it's going to be in a similar route as that, because a lot more people have bigger preferences and they prefer is Grand Theft Auto instead of Red Dead. It's the way it is anyway. Personally, for me, Grand Theft Auto is all the way, easy. Grand Theft Auto is still a better game in my personal opinion. But if they have to basically back on track to release Grand Theft Auto 6 as an example, let's say they want to release it, I don't know, in next generation of consoles, so it will be 2020, then it will be, say, yeah, 2021 I still think might be the minimum, the earliest release date for the Grand Theft Auto 6. And obviously, if that's the case, and if they are still gonna go with a similar marketing-wise, then shouldn't we really be expecting some kind of reveal trailer this year? I don't know. Maybe next year, that will be the little bit later on if that's to expect. But then the game you would expect for it to come out in 2022. Wouldn't that make more sense? I don't know. It's just that there's a lot of concerns and I'm worried that they're gonna be cutting out the content just so make sure that they release it earlier. But it's gonna be a little more bare bones than everybody will be expecting. Now it's okay if it's necessary. Like Red Dead Redemption 2 content, that was necessary for it to be, removed. There's so much filler in there, it's insane. They do not need to have that. There's a lot of problems. Grand Theft Auto 5, there were a little bit of fillers and some unnecessary stuff. I can see them removing some of the parts in there. That's okay. But that's the thing. What is exactly that they're going to be not implementing into on day one of their new game? And what is the sacrifice that they had to make so they had to reduce the development time? Removing one or two things isn't going to much, improve the results and move up, like forward the release date. I don't think so. They need to remove like up to 100 to 200 stuff. Obviously that does not mean that, as an example, like they have like, I don't know, 50,000 of content in the single player wise of different things. So obviously they're gonna have to remove a lot of stuff. I'm worried about this. It's just I don't want to see Grand Theft Auto 6, less content, and not as interesting as Grand Theft Auto 5 or Red Dead Redemption 2. It's just worrying for me personally. And if that's what they want to do, that's fine. If you want to cut down on the single player, let's say it's not going to be 40 hours length, but instead it's going to be 30 hours length. If it's still compelling, less filler and that stuff, that's fine. That's perfectly acceptable, personally, for me. Now, of course, because due to the recent success of the Grand Theft Auto Online, and I don't know if I can say the same for the Red Dead Online, but I can definitely talk about Grand Theft Auto Online. It's because of that, Take-Two Interactive are going to be making priorities in the multiplayer aspects of the game. Never again, perhaps even on a single player, and that's worrying. Again. Now, if they're going to be releasing it on day one, I'm sure they're going to be concentrating to putting more efforts and time into their online mode instead of the single player. When the single player comes out, I'm sure a couple of months later, maybe the online mode comes out similarly like it was done on the Grand Theft Auto, and also the Red Dead Redemption 2. And then yet again, it's going to be a similar case. I personally believe so. Day one, not so interesting, so to say. Probably a lot of multiplayer, issues with the connection-wise, because Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption, they're extremely popular. A lot of people are going to be playing them on day one, so it's probably going to be over, servers is not going to be able to handle it with so many people going online at the same time on the same game. But yes, and then after a couple months later, they will be updating it with the content, with the updates, and the DLCs and whatnot. And, I think it's going to be the same case as it done with the Grand Theft Auto 5, but then they're going to be doing the same thing again with the Grand Theft Auto 6. It's, it's very extremely profitable, it only makes sense for them to do, and, money, it's all about the money. Now, as well, because of the reduction time, so less money to be implemented as well into development, so that kind of makes it easier for them. Now, it's a way to see and what to expect from out of this, right? What kind of content they've been cutting out. Well, in fact, I'm more than confident to say that we would never know what is the content that they were cutting out, and if we will ever even find out. Now, perhaps maybe some of those modders and stuff, people will be able to dig in and stuff and see what it was they're left behind as a bit of evidence and stuff. But I doubt it. I think they're gonna be able to, you know, keep it quiet, and so nobody will be able to see exactly what's been cut out. Because like I don't want to see substantial stuff being cut out, for example like heists and stuff in a single player, because the heists and the stuff like that in a single player were the best part about the game as well. Well, one of the best parts anyway. The storytelling, the compellingness of it as well. It's just fantastic. I personally think so. Now I wanted to talk about last thing as well is when you would expect, and also how Rockstar, the developers have been actually implementing and, you know, I should say developing on the games as such as the Red Dead Redemption 2 and, you know, Grand Theft Auto 5. That's also talking about Grand Theft Auto 5 that comes out on PlayStation 3. Yes, it was PlayStation 3, Xbox 360. A year later, it came out on PlayStation 4, and then it came out on the Xbox One, and then I believe another year later, it came out on PC. So think about that, the development that they had to implement and put in just to make sure that the very same game comes out on all those different platforms. And then, a couple of years later, all their manpower and the resources went into the Red Dead Redemption 2 to be made, and it came out in 2018, the end of that. But then, now they have to put in and implement a lot of time into that game and the online component, because this is more or less of a live as a service sort of a game. Grand Theft Auto Online is well ongoing, and yet still is getting a bunch of updates. But not as often as no longer, of course, but still, you know, it's going to be slowly, you know, getting a reduction with the content. It's already is actually, if you guys did not know. Red Dead Redemption 2 Online, basically that aspect is going to be keep on going strong for a couple of more years. Then it's going to be, you know, similar case, going down a little bit slower and slower with the amount of content that they will be able to implement. Actually, I would even argue to say that Red Dead Redemption 2 Online will not last as long as Grand Theft Auto 5 Online does it. But Grand Theft Auto 6, I think they're gonna put so much more time into it, especially for its online mode, because that's where all the profit comes from. Well, anyway, that's all I got for today, guys, and take a look at my previous videos. Well, I really highly encourage you to do that. And anyway, well, it will be pinned down in the comments as well. Anyway, like and subscribe. See you guys all, and have a good one.